you said you've been celibate for a minute now, a couple years. What have been the benefits of that you gained from this choice to abstain from sex?
I don't have to go to the clinic every other week to just sit there and be scared out of my mind hoping that I don't have something. I don't have to waste so much money on Plan B pills and other forms of just protecting against pregnancy and STDs. And the peace of mind, sex outside of marriage, for me, it brought drama all the time. And it wasn't like drama like my tires getting slashed or my car getting lit on fire or anything like that. But it was just not knowing what's going to come next. We said sex changes things. Well, if I'm having sex with you, but I don't feel for you the way that I know you feel for me, and we continue having sex, I know that things aren't going to stay the way it is now. We're not going to always be friends with benefits. You're going to want something more. There's no peace of mind in that, where you're thinking one way, she's thinking another way. There's no peace of mind in having sex knowing that regardless of the condom or whatever, she eventually may get pregnant. And that if she does, your whole life is just going to change. There's no peace of mind in knowing that because you're a woman who's been hurt and you're using sex as a way to medicate your pain, I am just a drug dealer continuing to give you more doses, more hits, and I'm only aiding you in your self-destruction. There's no peace of mind in that I'm just helping you stay the same and grow worse every day. I did feel dirty. I did feel like trash. I did feel like someone who was a snake, couldn't be trusted. I wasn't worthy of a wife, or I wasn't going to be a good father. For me, it's peace of mind. It's just, I love being free to say, if I see an attractive woman, I can tell her she's attractive. I don't want nothing from it except just to get to know her better. And if we do grow beyond friendship, then so be it. But everything before that was I had a mission. I'm trying to accomplish this mission. Everything was pass or fail. If I got sex from you, mission accomplished. If I didn't, mission failed. That's pressure within itself right there. Because now I'm measuring myself by what I'm doing and what I can get. And I just love knowing that I'm okay with myself. I'm good. I like me. For the first time in my whole life, I like myself. And it's actually at a point when I'm not trying to live up to anybody else's standard. And that's really weird, but it's good. And I'm okay with being weird or being different right now. Because I know in the future, I won't have to deal with the consequences of living a life just touching fire and trying to jump out before you get burned. So
it's interesting to hear you say, even when you were doing that, you felt like a snake. You felt dirty. You felt, you knew that I'm medicating her pain because I know she feels more. Because you don't typically hear that from a guy. Because society has made it seem like guys can have sex, hit it and quit it. Guys can and just be done, and there are absolutely no emotions attached to it at all. And there's no guilt, there's no whatever. It's I just got what I. So you're telling me that's not true?
I don't think it's true as much as it probably once was years ago. Only because if you look at the statistics of how many households are single parent households, it's at an all-time high. So that means for us guys, we're growing up with the understanding that our mothers were hurt, that our mothers were affected in some type of way. We hate our biological fathers. For me, I've never seen him. Don't know what he looks like, never met him. So I was bitter for a long time. So how can I know that an act was committed, like sex outside of marriage, and it led to me being here, and not only just me being here, but we live in a situation that we wouldn't be in if I had two parents, because that would be more money. Or I would know how to tie a tie. I would know how to, get my hair cut. I would know how to dress. I would know how to walk like a man. I would know how to shake someone's hand. All those things that I had to learn by either watching from afar or watching TV, or my mother, yelling at me because she thought I should have known that, I could have avoided or I could have mastered earlier on. So now as a young man, understanding that I didn't have all those things and my mother was hurt on top of that, she was scarred for my entire childhood. How can I sit back and say, I know that sex is something to you, but it means nothing to me. I can't make that disconnect anymore. That's what I really mean when I say guys are not as dumb as we once were thought to be, because of the way society is, we see more now than guys 20 years ago did. It's more of us here because of a father who left.
But, and I hear you say that, and I get it, and I'm glad you got to that point. But there are teenage boys out here who came from very similar backgrounds that you came from, whose mothers were hurt, and they're living in, poverty as a result of their choice, yet they're still out making those same choices, just like you did at 14. So at some point, like there was a breaking point.
Right.
Is it just that you grew up? It's interesting, because that's what I try to get. That's the point I try to get across in the classroom to kids who are in those situations. That one generation always pays for the previous generation's choices, and unless you make different choices, then your kids are going to pay for your choices as well. And so to hear you say, all of this goes through my mind. I can't do to my kids what happened to me, and I know that if I had sex, whatever, I want that to happen to somebody at 10 years old, 11, 12, 13 years old, so they don't end up doing that.
Gosh.
So like, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm like,
I understand what you're
I
saying.
love that you said it. I'm like,
understand.
I just want everybody to get to that point much sooner.
Well, it was, for me, it was that another man called that out within me. I had heard my mother say that same thing on so many levels, so many different times. But it's one thing when your mother says it, you know that your mother loves you, so you know that she's always going to have your best interest at heart. But hearing it from another man who wasn't connected to me from birth, or we didn't share the same blood, even if he would have been a family member, I just feel like it's so different, because a man is always the one that calls out manhood in a boy. He's always the one that can kind of like point at that boy and make that boy realize that he has a capability that maybe he didn't even see within himself to make better decisions. So Mr. Van Dyke, who I was around at the age of 19, 20, 21, 22, he was the one who was that example. He had 5 children, by one wife. They all lived together. There was no drama. They were like, the Cosby Show. And I just looked at him with such great respect, just because of that. He didn't even have a lot of charisma. He didn't say or do anything that was cool to me. He was very old school. But when I just looked at how he lived his life, I said, that's balance. Like, he sleeps at night. He feels good about himself. When his wife tells him he looks good, he feels like he looks good. He doesn't have to go and earn the respect of everybody outside of his home, because he's got what he needs in his home. So I wanted that. And he was the one that explained to me that I was just continuing the cycle. He didn't know that I was having sex outside of marriage, but he understood that by what he could see in my life and how I carry myself, I wasn't choosing to rise above the things that I was really just giving too much credit. Like I was saying, well, I'm a product of this, I'm a product of that. He's like, fool, that's just, where you came from. Well, that's just where you live. Well, that's just who birthed you. That has nothing to do with where you're going. It won't be something that you reject or you're afraid for people to know, but it should be used in a way where it's positive, where people see it and they say, wow, you overcame all that. So he's the one who introduced me into having a better relationship with Christ. And then after that point, knowing everything I do affects my tomorrow. Like my today affects my tomorrow, or I affect her tomorrow too. If I tell her that she's valuable, then she might believe she's valuable the next time she has the opportunity to give it up to another guy, or to just lay down with anyone who comes along. And I see it. And I go to the gym, girl at the front counter, she gets mad because I say, ma'am, no ma'am, yes ma'am, or how are you doing? I'm not a ma'am, don't call me that. As soon as I say, well, you're valuable, aren't you? It just changes everything about it. Now every time I go to the gym, she's like in front of the counter, trying to like walk me over to the weights and all this. Now she sees me as like I'm different. And it's all because I just pointed out the value in her. But that would have never happened without Mr. Van Dyke. A man telling me, this is how a man calls out the value in a woman. So I think for me, that was a turning point. I think it would help other young guys too.
So it reminds me of a quote that I use in the classroom that says, "It is the nature of man to rise to greatness when greatness is expected of him."
Amen.
And so what I hear you saying is that Mr. Van Dyke called greatness out of you.
Yes.
And I just think that's so important. And I wish more men, like even if they're not your biological son, would understand the power that they have to change the whole trajectory of a lot of kids' lives in our society. Right. If they would just go find that one kid and call greatness out of them, because it's there.
That's right.
Because I mean, the quote says it's the nature, which means that's what's natural.
That's right.
It's the nature of man to rise to greatness if greatness is expected. And so when we live in a society where greatness is not expected and we expect, people to do this or whatever, that's just really powerful. And thank you for sharing that, because it's, to me, that's what I try to get kids to see in the classroom. And I just want other men to understand how powerful it is for them to go and tell a kid that where you're headed does not have to be where you came from.
Right.
And, that's just where you were, but it doesn't have to be where you're going.
Men have to get
understand
involved.
the power of cycles, like
Right.
breaking generational cycles of poverty, breaking generational cycles of, single parent home, all of this.